Hi, I'm Dr. Daniel Berger. Really appreciate the opportunity to tell you about the Fallen Soldier March, and specifically the conference that we'll be having. A little bit about that conference. We are really a focus group that is helping soldiers through traumatic events, helping them to understand who they are, identity. And so one of the ways we do that is that we provide an alternative phenomenology to what is often called post-traumatic stress disorder. We don't like to call it a disorder because, quite frankly, we don't see people who struggle after going through a traumatic event as being disordered, as being abnormal. Yes, they are struggling, they're suffering through that internally, but we don't see them as being damaged or disordered. And that might seem like a little thing, but in fact, it's a life-changing recognition of who they are. In fact, I'll teach you two big words today if you don't already know them. The first is phenomenology, and the second is epistemology. Epistemology, I'll start with the second, is the idea of truth. Where does truth come from? How do we know what is true? And who has the authority to decide what is true? And so for illustration's sake of how we can help soldiers who have gone through traumatic events, the actual trauma in post-traumatic stress, the trauma is a real event. In other words, there is truth there that occurred in that person's life. It's something that they are now faced with, a truth that maybe in the past they weren't even aware of or hadn't gone through. And now there's no way to escape what has occurred in their life. A reality, if I can say it that way, has occurred. And when it's horrific, when it goes against our worldview or our faith struggles to interpret or understand what we've been through, that struggle we call trauma. But that is the epistemology, that's the truth. What varies then is the phenomenology. In other words, how I feel, how I perceive it, the identity that I carry away from that event. And we at the Fallen Soldier March do not believe that a person is disordered, even though that is a phenomenology that is popular in our mental health system. In fact, it's a Kreplinian theology. It comes from Emil Kreplin, sadly, right out of Nazi Germany. And the idea that people are disordered, or as the Nazis called it, degenerates, is a very destructive phenomenology. A person begins to look at themselves as damaged goods rather than finding hope and finding a way forward and understanding that it is right that they're struggling. So one of the things that we do is that we offer hope for not just soldiers, but anyone who is struggling through traumatic events, to find an identity that is healing rather than an identity that stigmatizes. So these are big words, but phenomenology and epistemology are very important for us to understand, not just for this issue of our soldiers that serve so bravely, and many of them sacrifice their lives, like one of my close friends, Ben Tiffner, but we also apply these things in real life. And so we are very much advocates against what is called epistemic imposition and epistemic injustice. And by that I mean we don't force a truth onto other people, nor do we force the way that they should feel. We just simply offer them truth that can set them free. We offer them a different way of viewing themselves than the world is teaching them, than this idea, this secular idea that they are somehow abnormal or disordered because they have persistent and ongoing distress. This is not a healthy place to be. This is not somewhere that is healing. In fact, what we see with soldiers is that when they come together and they find out that it's okay to discuss how they're feeling and that they're all struggling, they quickly realize, as the Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once said, an abnormal response to an abnormal circumstance is in fact normal. The disorder is not the person. The disorder is that they had to go through war, that they had to face the threat of dying, that they had to even take the life of another person. And so we are not after damaging them further with a phenomenology that hurts, but a phenomenology that gives them a right identity, that they can see themselves as they are created to be, as they're ordered to be. And to realize that the disorder is in the fallen world. And yes, we all have disorder in our souls. but that in fact is normal too, that the struggle that they have is exactly, it's the healthy response, if I can say it that way, to being traumatized. So I hope that helps a little bit, and we hope that you'll join us